Hello and welcome back to BS Games. I'm Bern, and with me today I have a special guest, my good friend.
Oh, hi. You can just call me Bartholomew.
Bartholomew is better than me at this game. I'd go so far as to say he might be a bit of an expert.
Sure.
Hopefully that's not tooting your horn too much. And he is going to help give some tips and information on a lot of things about the game. Some free-to-play aspects, some pay-to-play aspects, and some of the more advanced stuff that I haven't covered in other videos. So here is my highest level account, which is a VIP account. I don't top up on it anymore. I just did like a big top up. It was like a year or so ago that I started playing this account. And so I'll just quickly show off my team. So I know that it's not the best team because I kind of stuffed some things up and then I just abandoned the account for I think 9 or 10 months. And
All
it's
right.
very slow to load.
How much do you know about like the fundamentals behind the game? So, like, do you understand how damage works?
Well, you were covering that last stream,
Right, right.
but it might be good to go over it again in this stream.
Okay. Yeah, this is gonna be tough because it's so much easier to just send people a visual. I think visuals are really helpful in sort of trying to understand this game.
Well, I can sort of
Because
load this up
yeah,
so
yeah.
that you can see some of the things and I can point them out as you talk about them.
Huh. I mean, it's not enough. Like
Yeah,
there is, yeah, there is math, but I think that having the visual it helps keep your attention to the things that I'm going to say. Um, okay, so we can start over with just the stats on the stat page, I guess.
yeah, go for it.
Um, yeah. All right. So, there's a lot of like basic information that I think most people could understand, and then there's a little bit more there's stuff that isn't shown in the game. So there's a lot of stuff that goes completely unexplained by the game, and that's basically important for the next thing, which is how to choose a strategy, how to make a team. And then there's like also why are you choosing a strategy? Why are you making a team? Like what are you trying? What is your goal when you play this game? Because I think that's really, really unclear. When you get into the game, there is no goal.
That's
There
true.
is
Yeah.
no yeah, like you don't really know why you're playing or what you're playing for. There is like PvP aspects, so you can like compare yourself to
Yeah.
other people, but it's like really it's discouraging almost because people who are more powerful than you can seem leagues ahead simply because
Yes.
they spend more money or they spend more time playing than you. So
Yep.
it's at first everything seems like
Daunting.
daunting and sort of like chaotic, and there's like a disarray.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of clear information or like a clear progression path to this game.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we'll start out with the basics, and this is really, really important. And so basically, I'll bring up the actual stats, but then also like how they have a place in the meta. So like most of this game is an artificial meta. So the developers of this game they balance things in an unbalanced way. They are sporadic. They will create new mechanics that are never to be seen ever again. And they will also code things wrong all the time. There have been so many mistakes that have just existed in the game since things things have always been in a state of chaos and disarray, and sort of like the meta shifts depending on what things get fixed or what things get added all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. So one thing that we could look at, like out of these stats on this, hold on. Oh, sorry. All right, I'm back. All right, of
That's
the
all right.
stats on this page, like, I guess I'll point out a few of them that that makes sense to most people, I guess. So like force and chakra,
Yep.
you get those stats. They directly translate into your attack
Yep.
at a 1-to-1 scale. Yeah, we could talk about the stats. So like the main stats are force and chakra, agility and power, right? So yeah, you can get force and chakra through like a lot of different things, but basically they just translate to a 1-to-1 ratio to physical attack
Yep.
or strategy attack. And they also translate to a 70% ratio for defense. So inherently you get like less defense than you have attack, which will be important later on, like explaining some of the meta. And that makes sense just because if you got 1 defense for every attack, since defense directly counteracts attack, no one would do any damage.
Yep.
It would just be 0 damage if you were like evenly matched. So like everyone has to be able to do some amount of damage
Yep.
because you can build HP. So you have to. There is somewhat of a. The game is designed to be balanced in that way, so that you can build defensive stats like HP and defense, but that it will never really be easy to overcome somebody building attack, and there's reasons for that in
Yep.
the damage formula.
Yep. That makes sense.
So yeah, there's already a discrepancy between the main stats, force and chakra, in terms of an offensive to defensive like scaling. It's going to be more offensive. Power increases your HP at a 1-to-1 ratio, and agility increases your speed at a 1-to-1 ratio. Yeah, so those are the main stats. But like more importantly than that, it's actually the green stats. Those are actually pretty important. And the two important ones are damage rate and avoid injury rate. Like
Yep.
it's not explained exactly what they mean in the game,
Yeah.
but essentially damage rate and avoid injury rate, you have to subtract avoid injury rate from the damage rate. You subtract the target's avoid injury rate from the attacker's damage rate, and then that number is a multiplier for your attack.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically, if you were to attack yourself here, you'd be dealing like 102% of your attack damage to yourself,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so that's super important. Everyone starts out with 100% damage rate naturally. Actually, like event ninjas have a natural amount of damage rate and avoid injury rate, so it's over 100. But yeah, essentially normal damage would be 100% damage rate and 0 avoid injury rate.
Yeah.
And like in the community, people just say DR and AIR, like AIR,
Yeah.
as just a shortened version of those things. And so basically this game is entirely balanced around people building more air and more damage rate. So basically there's just 2 classical paths to play the game. And there's a third path, which is really shitty and it's just bad. But the first 2, they make more sense. One is a damage route and one is a tank route.
Yep.
Yeah. And so like the damage route is essentially they're looking to hit first and they're looking to hit hard.
Yep.
And then the other route is looking to, there's multiple win conditions for the other route. And we can talk about that in terms of the meta, I guess.
Yep.
So like looking at your team, you have a couple of ninjas that that don't make a that doesn't lean. Your team sort of like leans towards both paths.
Yep.
And so most people would call that hybrid, but there's like good hybrid teams and bad hybrid teams.
Yep.
And all hybrid teams are pretty bad, to be honest. But yeah, like some ninjas work well together, even though they are hybrid, and some don't.
Yep.
And so we can talk about how that usually has to do with damage rate and avoid injury rate, as like sort of the baseline. So like that's the sort of things that you should look in your ninjas. But then there's obviously differences between different ninjas besides those stats in particular.
Yep.
And so like every ninja has its own use, and then there's some that stand out more than others. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about progression in this game.
Yep.
So when you first started this game, what did you think the point of the game was?
Level up as much as possible and collect as many ninjas as possible.
Right. So did you care about like beating other people?
Somewhat. I wanted to be around the top sort of area of the arena.
Right. Okay, so a big trend in this game is that people will lose interest and eventually stop playing,
Yep.
because they view the game as like a competition,
Yep.
and either they're winning or they're losing.
Yep.
And if you win, it actually gets pretty boring. If you lose, it becomes pretty boring pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
And it can also always seem like how much you spend has a direct correlation to the strength that you have in the game.
Yeah.
And that can be very confining in terms of your play style and what you want, and sort of like your expression and your creativity. It just doesn't really seem to exist for a lot of people. If anything, everyone's just looking to buy like a new shiny ninja or something like that, create a team that's like new and expensive, and just throw together gear that's new and expensive, and they think that that's fun.
Yeah.
But like the true progression of this game, it's not just in levels. A lot of it has to do with particular breakpoints in the game that you reach at certain points, and they got slowly added to the game. So like before, these things didn't exist, but like, you know, for the past couple of years they've existed. And so basically players have started developing strategies to like basically like optimize how you play towards these pillars, I guess you could say.
Yep.
So one would be the tutorial AI, which is called Aliens, Aliens Invasion or something like that.
Yep.
Alien Invasion, yeah. So okay, so basically,
Yeah, I'm not very good at that.
right, and so it's because your team is really, really, really unoptimized.
Yep.
For aliens. And aliens is basically, it's a testament to the fundamentals of the game that I was talking about. So things like air, damage rate, attack, I guess too.
Yeah.
So basically, if you can complete aliens faster than someone else, what you get are alien fragments.
Yep.
Alien fragments, they're only used to recruit the actual alien ninjas.
Yep.
And the alien ninjas are used for the ninja bonds. So okay, can you click that ninja bond in the bottom left corner? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So like ninja bonds for alien invasion specifically, they're the most powerful bonds in the game. And basically, alien bonds boost specific stats. It takes a long time to get them, but it takes a lot less time if you are a PvE centric team. Basically, PvE just means like there's PvE and there's PvP. So if you center your team around PvE, then you will get these bonds faster. The difference between somebody who is 100 million BP battle points, and they can only clear like Jugo, like the first 1 out of 10 of the aliens, and somebody who's like 30 or 40 million BP and they can clear all 10 aliens, is basically that the person who can clear all 10 took maybe like a quarter of the time and will get their bonds 10 times faster. And so
Yeah.
they're like 40 times ahead in terms of the PvE, in terms of specifically just the bonds.
Yep.
Spending and whaling on this game, no matter what, is effective. It will give you these stats artificially.
Yeah.
But if you like don't want to spend as much money and you want to just win through strategy, then it's really, really important to center yourself around this specific task of clearing aliens, because it's the only way that you can get like a substantial amount of stats and like basically start progressing towards a specific game plan that is centered around a specific stat. So for some people, that would be speed. For others, it will be attack. And that is the two paths that you can take. It is the damage path or the tank path. Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense because attack isn't a tank stat, but it really is. Like, attack really is a tank stat. It is also a damage stat, so obviously anyone who is going for a damage path or a PvP path would also get attack eventually, and eventually you get all these.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure that's quite a grind, though.
it can be, but
But yeah, if you get the advantage that you were talking about, where you're clearing it all, I'm sure that you go pretty fast, and it becomes sort of one of your daily things. Just like the daily task is just to
right,
collect more alien shards.
yeah. It also has to do with like your specific game plan, your strategy that you make.
Yep.
And the reason for that is because after aliens, basically aliens start at your first reincarnation. After that, once you get to your third reincarnation, which is quite a bit away,
Yep.
you unlock something called Saints Road. Saints Road is basically the continuation of aliens in PvP, but it gives more substantial stats. So by substantial stats, I basically mean DR and air, damage rate and air. You don't have it unlocked because you're not 3RI.
Yeah.
But basically, Saints Road, the AI half of it, so there's an AI half and then there's a task half. The task half takes a lot longer if you've built an AI, if you've built a good team. The AI will be really easy for you if you've built a good team by the time you're 3RI. But for people who didn't build a good team, it would just be impossible for them. Like, it would just be too hard.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't be able to do it no matter what. The tasks require you to know what they are and to prepare for them. Otherwise, they will take you a long time. If you can prepare for them and like memorize some of the harder tasks, then you can basically get these power boosts months before other people, which is pretty important. And the issue is that you have to get so far into the game to 3RI, or actually it's 2RI 50. But you have to get so far into the game before you even see the tasks that most people don't even know that like that's what they're playing for.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah, like they don't even know like, oh, that's what's gonna like make or break whether or not I'm way stronger or not.
Yeah.
And they don't even know like that you're supposed to be playing to build a PvE team, because almost everybody builds a PvP team.
Yes.
Because when you first start out, that's just what seems like the point of the game is. It's the point is to compare yourself to other people at this specific strength that you are now, and compare it to people who are around a similar strength and to be like, oh, can I beat them or not?
Yep.
So I'm going to explain why creating a tank team is better, not just for PvP, but also for PvE. And also, if you want to transition out of it, then it's like a better thing to transition out of a tank team to another type of team rather than from a damage team to a tank team. And basically why, yeah, like why it's the true path of progression for playing the game.
Yeah, cool.
All right. yeah, I guess we could talk about this. So back in the day, Aliens was really hard. People were still figuring out strategies to beat it. But one thing has always been clear is that understanding the math in the game helps, because essentially you don't have to figure it out on your own if you can just learn from what somebody else did.
Yep.
And basically how to people will start to tell you about certain stats that you need to reach to beat aliens. So like basically what's required is having a certain amount of air. If you don't have a certain amount of air, then the aliens will just wipe you. They'll just one shot you. Another thing would be to have a certain amount of DR. Like if you don't have enough damage rate, then you will literally do 0 damage to the aliens. And the good news is that aliens do not have boosted DR or air. So you don't have to like stack these stats all that high, but you do have to optimize for them.
Yep.
What they do have is a boosted defense and attack. Attack can be completely disregarded if you have enough air for the most part.
Yep.
Just because that's how the math works. It would be helpful if people knew the actual damage formula and also liked math, because then they could think about it themselves and like think about how it could be applied to like the meta and the game at large. But in simple terms, having enough air is important to survive, and that gives you 20 rounds to kill the aliens. That's really important. If you can survive 20 rounds, it's a lot different than surviving 1 or 2 rounds. If you build a damage team, it's likely that you'll only survive 1 or 2 rounds, and that you won't have enough damage because the aliens have incredibly high boosted defense.
Yep.
And like a lot of PvP teams aren't really centered around building for defense reduction. They're centered around building for damage rate because they're centered around like PvP.
Yeah.
And like people stacking air. These aliens don't have a lot of air or DR, so it doesn't really matter if you have a lot of DR. But it does matter if you have enough air. Yeah, there's ways to bypass their high defense, and that we can talk about in terms of like the meta teams that people use.
Yep.
Yeah. So do you pay attention to the event ninja that are like coming out and stuff?
Sometimes.
Do you pay attention to any of the teams that people use?
I do look at the teams, yeah, a bit. Sometimes I have a bit of trouble working out what teams people on other servers are actually using. But you can sort of see it through this, can't you?
Yeah. There's a big issue to looking at these people, which is that they've cleared all of AI. They've cleared all the AI in the game, and so they are basically free to do whatever they want. And so they're purely centering their strategy around PvP at this point, because they're all done with the AI. And the issue with getting to the point that they're at is that you have to beat AI first, and before you can start making those decisions. And so it's like useful to look at what they're using, just because they are like thinking about the fundamentals behind the game. Like, oh, what sort of stats are you optimizing for with this team, and what sort of theme are you optimizing for? It can be useful in AI as well. But there's a few people that stand out particularly in like clearing AI that don't have any place in PvP. Like they just don't have a role in it. There's also like the AI is static. The AI don't increase in strength over time. They're just there. They just exist. They've been coded into the game. And PvP is constantly changing and evolving.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like, it's really easy to tackle this game if you're fighting a static opponent that you understand everything about them and you understand what breakpoints you need to get to in order to beat them. Compared to like your arena opponents or like people in other servers. That's a little bit harder. And I think the issue is that most people don't understand aliens at all. Like they don't understand any of these stats. They don't understand what's necessary to beat them. And the only way to understand is that you have to like basically watch other people do it.
Yep.
And the issue with that is there isn't a lot of information out there on like, or examples on how to beat the AI. And a lot of people who did it in the past they were either like spending a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Or they were just like really, really good at the game, I
Yeah.
guess you could say. And so some, you know, most people like somewhere in between those things, and they don't understand a lot about the game, and they don't understand a lot about like team building.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like building teams, like just because a ninja is meta doesn't actually mean it's good on your team.
Yeah.
Just because a ninja is like really popular in the higher levels of the game doesn't actually mean it's like useful at all for you. And you
Yeah.
have to decide a couple of things. For one, you have to decide what path you want to take, whether or not you're purely PvP focused or PvE focused. So there's differences between a PvE and a PvP team, and then you have to decide whether or not you want to build high damage and speed or tankiness. And there's other stats as well that matter, like or other like functions. But generally, you can think of it as like PvP focus versus PvE focus.
Yep.
And so, like the traits that would, so like a lot of PvP focused people, there's a way to do it right, and then there's a way that most people do it. So the way to do it right is basically to spend a lot of money, get the best ninjas, get the best gear. That's the first most important thing.
Yep.
And then spend more money to get, to basically just be as fast and strong as possible. And then become the fastest and strongest person within the 2 RI category in something called Ninja World War. And so basically, like how you'll set yourself apart from other people is you'll basically farm people in the 2 RI category, and you just won't reincarnate to the 3rd reincarnation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason is because when you win Ninja World War, you get something called ice feathers. Basically, it's wings.
Yeah.
And basically, people are looking for to farm those for perma wings. Now you can actually exchange them in the mall for another kind of wing. So you can actually farm 2 perma wings at 2 RI, but you have to place, I think, within top 4 in the 2 RI category of all servers.
Yep.
That is the correct way to play PvP, and so that doesn't require you to finish Aliens or Saints Road. It would help massively if you did both. It's possible to do both because tank teams are good in PvE and PvP, whereas like damage teams are only good in PvP. They can only do PvP. So that's like one of the reasons why tank is good. Like tank is massively more efficient in some ways and massively inefficient in other ways, just depending on like how much you spend, what like how rare certain resources that you're trying to get are, like how rare some certain stats are in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like most people, they like seeing big numbers and they like one-shotting their opponent in PvP. So they're just gonna build a damage team. So like the meta damage team, like in the past, it still sort of applies now. So like basically you just want a ninja that does a lot of damage, and you want a formation that has 3 supports and 2 assaulters. So like one of the assaulters is going to be your main. And the reason for that is because of something called speed rings. So basically every event ninja nowadays gives a speed ring. It gives a boost to your team. Supports have the fastest speed rings. So they boost their team's speed by the most amount. So you want the most amount of supports to be as fast as possible. And assaulters, they do more damage. So you want to use an assaulter over a vanguard because you don't care about tanking at all. You just care about dealing damage in a fast and hard-hitting team. Yeah. It makes you very glassy. So if you don't go faster than the other person, you basically just die.
Yep.
And so that's why whaling is important, because you want to be faster than the other person, and the only way to like guarantee that you have more speed than them in PvP at least is basically to well, there's 2 ways, I guess. One would be have like higher level jades, but more importantly is to have more fruits on your summon. So like in your summon tab, right? There's the actual summon. In the summon tab, there's the actual summon itself that you have to spend silver to upgrade.
Yep.
And then there's the stats that you get from your fruits. So like those red stats next to the current stats.
Yep.
Yeah, those are all from fruits. And so people can basically buy fruits with gold. and they can boost their stats that way.
Oh yeah.
You can get really fast that way, and if you're really, really fast and you do a lot of damage because you have boosted fruits, then you basically just outspeed everyone and one-shot everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And for whales, like damage works really, really well because they have like they can basically just purely focus on offensive stats and speed, and then just win. And then they can farm everything. Like they can farm beasts, they can farm tourney, they can farm Ninja World War, they can farm all the important PvP like stat silver and XP gaining things,
Yep.
and then turn that into stats for themselves. And so like they can just hog a lot of resources.
Yep.
The PvE path is more feasible for most people.
Yep.
Simply because like you're gonna be competing against other people spending more money than you if you go for a damage path.
Yep.
And you don't get any of like the benefit of relying on PvE if you're going for a damage path, because you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so building a tank team is just superior, always. It's also really, really hard for people in the early game to catch up to a tank team because it's hard to optimize for DR.
Yep.
Simply put, most of the time when you build a tank team in the early game, people will literally be doing 5 damage to you, and you'll just be invincible.
Yep.
There's a lot of win cons that you can use for a tank team, and so it's like more flexible than a damage team usually. Damage teams can have multiple win cons like later on, but normally in the early game they're just trying to like one-shot other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, do you ever think about those things when you buy Ninja?
Back in the day, I didn't really, well, I guess I still don't really understand the stats too well. So whenever I was getting a ninja, I would ask some of the top people on the server who's good for my team, and I'd try and get them to explain it to me. And yeah, a lot of the time it was just about that character being part of the new meta. Sometimes they would say, oh, this character's good for this reason or whatever, but yeah, I wouldn't really be able to formulate my own team, really.
Right.
I don't think, because I don't think I understand the stats well enough.
Yeah, I don't think most people can.
Yeah.
Or even if they do like come up with their own team, it's not necessarily going to be good at PvE, and that's like sort of it's going to halt their growth if they continue playing, unless they continue spending money, of course. But even if they spend money, there's a point at which you cap out in the game, and then the only things that can be increased is basically like, you know, if you whale a ton, like if you spend a ton of money on boosting your fruits, like probably thousands of dollars, or if you do PvE, or if you acquire something called base, which just takes time, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like in the past, clearing aliens took a lot of time. It required a lot of base. A lot of the stats weren't as readily available as they are nowadays. Like nowadays, all the ninjas are stronger. Everything's power crept. It's like everything can be optimized a lot, and you can like basically choose different styles that are all good in this game from the very start now. And I think most people just like don't understand like how to specifically engage like one style over another, and they don't understand like which ninja fits within that style. And even if they do, they don't know like why that style is even important. Like, why is it important to tank or be a tank, you know?
Yeah.
Like, to them it doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, because they don't know like some of the mechanics in the game. Like, for example, if you survive for 20 rounds in PvP and you have more HP than the opponent at the end, you just instantly win.
Yeah.
So like, if you can just take 5 damage and they can't do any damage to you, and you just heal any damage that they deal to you, and you just simply have like a higher max HP than them, and you're just both sitting there full HP at the end, you just instantly win.
Yep.
So like that's one of the win cons of being a tank, like a true tank, like somebody who doesn't even want to hit back and they're just sitting there just tanking. That's just like one of the easiest win cons in the game, early game, because like most people won't understand that. Like they don't know that that's even possible, and everyone's trying to build damage, but they don't do it effectively because they're not optimizing for DR, because DR is really it can be easy to come by, but at the same time people people have to who are building damage, they focus on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay. Let's start talking about specific ninja because I feel like these terms that I'm saying they're so unclear that like people won't understand.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just talk about the meta currently. It's like best ninjas in the game. If we're talking tank, which I think is the best, would be Sakan and Kakazu.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of reasons for that, but basically they've been pushed by the devs to be really, really powerful. Like obviously broken, like absolutely the best ninjas in the game. They so single-handedly like carry the later game PvE, and if you get them like early on, they're monsters. They're just too good. So like if people are looking for like, oh they're not in UC,
They're
you
not
have
in
to buy
there.
them for gold.
They are gold
There's
ones.
there's something called Hina and Kakazu as a duo ninja, but I'm talking about Kakazu solo,
Yep.
and Sakan. So basically, to put it simply, they are very very good.
Mm-hmm.
They're very very good because they're the tankiest ninja in the game. Yet for some reason, they also do the most damage in the game, or at least they're like also hybrid. So they basically have the most utility when it comes to the fundamental stats that we're talking about. So like Sakan gives it an effective 70 air, which is the most of any ninja in the game, to your whole entire team. That's really, really good. Kakazu doesn't actually give like a ton of tankiness, but for some reason he has like the highest scalings in the game, and he opens up a lot of different strategies, which are really, really important. In PvE and in PvP, he's really, really powerful. So he's just good. There's not a lot of ninja that are like super great and versatile in a tank comp like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you think about getting any two ninja, those two would be really, really great. If you're looking for the damage path, it's really interesting. But like Jiraiya is actually one of the best DPS ninja in the game,
Yes.
just because his dot, which is his damage over time, it's uncleansable. So like there's only like 3 ninjas with uncleansable dots in the game, and only one of them is like a super meta relevant dips or like damage character, and yeah, it's Jiraiya. Yeah, like most whales that are not tank will run Jiraiya just because his dot is uncleansable. Basically what that means is they can't cleanse the dot. If you build enough attack, the dot will just one-shot them. And so like even if they have a lot of air, it won't matter. That usually doesn't happen. Like usually people have enough DR to just kill them without the dot, but like the dot is relevant in the meta. It's called Incinerate. Yeah, if you didn't know that, Incinerate is uncleansable, and cleanse is like a big part of PvP. Because almost every single dot other than that is cleansable. So like Kakazu, he's really powerful. He has a 360% dot scaling, which is insane. Like Jiraiya is like 100% or whatever. So it's like triple of any other ninja in the game. And so yeah, it's like really, really powerful. It's really good in PvE, but it's cleansable. That's the issue. And there's a lot of like really good sources of cleanse in the game. Yeah, so I would say Jiraiya is good. Other than that, like honestly, anyone works, but the like there's a lot of dips ninjas basically, but like I think the standout ones recently would be Yasuka Itachi, which had an awakening recently, but you have to get his event card like with gold. And
Yeah.
Yugao helps in a lot of different ways, but she's just good in general. She's good in PvP, she's good in PvE. Yeah, man, it's hard to explain, like, or it's hard to like explain like just how important building towards one path is. It's like if you look at your team, I can just like explain to you like what each ninja does
Yeah.
and sort of like what teams that they belong on. Yeah. Yes, like Jiraiya is a dips ninja. He's bad in PvE because he doesn't ignore defense, like other assaulters might. Yeah, he's bad in PvE. He doesn't do much damage to PvE, and that's his role. It's just to do damage. So he's sort of like just for PvP. Naraka is like pretty much the best healer in the game. He's one of the best tank ninjas in the game. If you were to like quantify like what he does, it would be he gives 60 air to your team. He heals when you get hit, and if he has less HP than the opponent, he gives himself an extra 60 air.
Yes.
So like essentially, he can give himself 120 air, which is just a ridiculous amount. So if he's like, if you just don't build a lot of max HP on him, he can essentially just tank anything in the game, because no one, I think the highest amount of DR someone gives like 70 or 60 from another ninja. So like just as a tank, he's like he holds a role in the meta for like pushing things towards the tank side basically. And he's also good in PvE because he heals. Reanimated Tobirama, yeah, it was like one of the best ninja in the game in the past. He was good in PvE and PvP, but nowadays he's just good in PvE. The reason is just because he has a high scaling on his skill. It only hits the backline, like the supports, but it ignores all defense. And that is like a really, really important thing in PvE. One downside of him is that he doesn't give his team any air at all. So like air is really, really important in PvE. He does give final damage reduction, but like that's just really, really bad compared to air when it comes to PvE.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically he's super outdated. Like in terms of like gold efficiency, he's slowly losing to cheaper and cheaper ninjas like that are just getting cheaper over time, because he's pretty much as cheap as it can get. So once you hit that point, then all the other ninjas that were sort of like more expensive start gaining more value compared to him.
Yep.
So like slowly he's losing his place as like a really efficient PvE clearing ninja.
Yep.
Which is kind of sad, but like, yeah. Mitsuki is classically like one of the best all-rounders in the entire game. It's like he pretty much does a little bit of everything, and he's just really, really good in general. But he doesn't really focus. He's more dip-sided, I'd say. It's like more damage-sided. But like he's just in general, he's good. He gives 60 air, 30 DR. I think he has attack reduction. He gives attack to his team as well. So he pretty much gives like all the essential stats that a ninja could possibly give, which is pretty impressive.
Yep.
But that's all he does. Yeah, he also has like a pretty important skill too in terms of PvP meta. Because it gives weakened state, which reduces speed, which is important in fighting tanks. Yeah, so do you want to talk about free-to-play?
Yeah. Yeah. Give us some free-to-play advice.
Yeah, there's pretty much only one path for free-to-play players, which is farming UC like weekly to get the shards ultimate challenge. Yeah. And then the only way that you can beat PvE, which is pretty much your only option, you're never going to win PvP, on a free-to-play account, is to buy Madara Obito and like Hiran Kaksu from UC. Yeah, so like Madara Obito, he's just really, really powerful solo ninja. He ignores defense, so that's super important PvE. And Hiran Kaksu is just a really good tank ninja. So like basically your goal, if you were free to play, is to somehow get enough air to take fives from the PvE, and so that you could just start focusing on damage, and you wouldn't need a healer, which is important. Yeah. There's like other ninja that are really, really effective as a free to play player. So like S Club Pain, but he requires VIP 6 to upgrade, doesn't he? Yeah, so pretty much, yeah, your only options are from UC for like good ninja, but like Minato would be pretty good from the S Club, just because he gives fury to everyone. Yeah, being free to play is super hard.
Yes.
It takes so much longer to progress in the game. Your best shot is actually to get gold for free from from like any event. There are a few events that can give you gold for free. It's like
Mm-hmm. So Ancient Treasures one.
yeah, ancient treasure, yeah,
Um,
and then just slowly build up gold through growth plan,
yep.
and then eventually just buy event ninjas and just be on the normal path. So pretty
Yeah.
much it's like not even worth talking about free to play strategies, but for some reason like a lot of people are free to play and they like want to play the game normally, but like you can't play the game normally as a
Yeah.
free to play player.
Yeah.
Like you're pretty much forced into the PvE path, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. And it's like PvE is sort of is gated through knowledge, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you gonna continue on your free to play account?
Yes, I am.
All right. So do you have any like specific goals?
Um, well, I did just recently get the extra gold from the ancient treasure, so it's still also within the first month of that account. So, yeah, I do plan on building up those gold reserves and then be able to play sort of normally, but
That
with the
could
knowledge
take you.
that it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just sort of want to work out what I can do in the meantime and how to play in the meantime.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not a lot of optimization that you can do besides thinking about like jades.
Do you want me to swap to that account?
Sure. Yeah. It's like there's so little amount of options that you have that almost and all the options that you do have, honestly, they aren't great. So like
Yeah.
there's very little that you can do. Maybe there's like optimization on how you spend your resources and like save.
Yeah.
Cause like yeah, that's possible. Like there isn't a lot of planning that you can do even.
Yeah.
Because you pretty much know what your plan is. So there's no optimization there.
So
Yeah, it's
is
like
it worth
it's sort of
a
it's
free to
silly, but
play?
I was go on.
Is it worth for a free to play to get the first level of pain?
No,
Nope.
I mean he just doesn't do anything. Yeah, like none of his skills would affect the PVE. Yeah, the only reason that like Minato or Itachi would be useful is because Itachi like has his attack reduces defense and Minato gets fury. But like in general, all the S Club ninjas are really really bad. I guess there's Hashirama and Madara. You wouldn't be able to upgrade them, but they're good.
Yeah.
They just take an insane amount of time to get them.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you're playing this game for years, like the difference between spending money and not is like you're actually playing the game if you spend money. And if you play free to play, then you're playing a totally different game. It's like a game of like
Resource building.
yeah, like inches. And you'll never even so the issue with this game is that if you learn as you go, then you will eventually come to realize that you've made mistakes once you reach your destination.
Yes.
But you won't know it until you reach there. And that's the problem. Like the game really starts at like 3 RI, but like the amount of mistakes that you can make before you get there is like infinite.
Yeah.
And so most people like wouldn't realize that until they got there, and that's the problem is it's so late game. Like it takes so long to get there
Yeah.
that like that like most people will just stay in a, or they'll probably never reach it. But like most people, once they get there, they'll be like, oh shit, like I fucked up a lot actually. And
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people having similar stories to me where they've just gotten to a certain point and then they've just gone, I fucked up, I spent my resources badly, and then they just quit. And that's sort of what I did. And yeah, a lot of other people have done that. They've started watching my videos and they've said similar things. So yeah, I think some of the mechanics in the game are poorly explained or not well known. So this has been really good for me, so hopefully it's really good for other people too.
all right, cool. How about I explain you my strategy? How about that? That
Yeah,
might help.
yeah, that sounds
All right.
good.
Okay. So starting out this game, I tried to learn from other people. So like Aliens came out years ago, and people have been clearing it for years. But like one thing that you'll see if you like are in the community for long enough is that like some people are a lot better at doing it and they can do it earlier than others. And that isn't about like how much money they spend. It is about the strategy that they use. And it's like people who understand the game better are able to come up with a better strategy if they focus on specifically clearing aliens. And there are like a couple people in the community that like for some reason like specifically focus on clearing the PvE in the game, whereas like most people, like majority of people, don't focus on that. So they're good for the community because we all sort of piggyback on their testing and like their gained knowledge for the rest of us. Yeah, like they basically limit tests really hard in PvE, and like show us the path for optimization and like show us the path for like what the PvE really looks like, what it actually is. Because if you just wait for long enough and build enough base, which is basically like what you get from Six Paths of Arcanum, from like getting silver, upgrading your bonds or whatever, like slowly over time, upgrading your base, you get Six Path title, whatever. Eventually, you'll be strong enough to clear aliens, and eventually you have enough BP to clear aliens. But that takes a long time, and some people don't want to wait that long, and so they try and use like an efficient strategy, a way to cheese the PvE. So like, there's a lot of ways to cheese the PvE, and I wouldn't necessarily say like cheese. Like some people think that some strategies are really cheesy because they're just PvE based, or they think that it's like way too easy if you use a certain strategy. But like, I think that any strategy that you can come up with, there's a lot of room for your own creativity, and
Yeah,
yeah. So I can just list a couple popular strategies that are used to clear aliens efficiently.
yeah, go for it.
So one would be Jugo Sage Jugo. So he's a special ninja. He's not like other ninja. He's kind of quirky. That's the strategy that I use. So essentially, when Jugo casts his skill, he gives everyone else on your shield or everyone else on your team a shield, so they can't take any damage. But there's a lot of caveats to that. So one is that he steals your team's HP. So like literally, he will subtract 60% of their HP at the start of his turn, every single turn. So like generally, people would think that's a bad thing because you want HP, because if you don't have HP, you'll die. But the reason that it's not a bad thing is because he simultaneously protects them from taking damage. Right. So like basically he'll take their HP, but then make them invincible. So it doesn't really matter. The biggest issue is that he doesn't shield himself. So he also steals his own HP, meaning that if he takes any damage at all, like literally any damage at all, then it will be very dangerous for him because he's already low. And so it's important to have a tanky Jugo. There are two ways to do that. One would be to build a tank team. But then Jugo isn't super useful because you don't actually need Jugo if you build a tank team, because tank teams increase everyone's tank. tankiness. The other is to build tank gear. That is the strategy that I use. Basically, I build tank gear on Jugo, so he is tanky, and then he makes the rest of my team tanky. Why do I like this strategy? It's because there are some mechanics built into the game that make HP loss really good. So there are a few ninja that can use HP loss really well. Jugo basically enables them because nobody else like takes HP from your team at a controlled amount. So, you know, there's ninja like, I'll just list them: Roshi, Sage Kabuto, Tayuya. They give you boosts and like things when you lose HP. They're good to have on the team with Jugo because they basically they like it when Jugo takes their HP and they get protected. So you don't have to build tank ninja with Jugo if he has tank gear. That's the nice thing. So you can run ninja that are generally like less tanky than normally you would need to be able to clear aliens. And that's good because they generally give you more damage. Yeah. It's a good strategy. There's other strategies that people use though that are also really good. So like one of the more common ones that people use to cheese aliens is using Roshi and 6-Pass Sage, the awakened form. Basically when they take damage, they give your team more air. So you can have them get purposely blocked, and if you just give them the right amount of air, they will literally just like be at like 1 HP, and they'll give your team like 90 air or something like that, or like maybe like 150 air. So basically it's like an artificial way to boost your team's air by an insane amount, by just like cheesing it, and then your team is super tanky, and then you can just run a damage dealer with those two ninjas who purposely you lower their S attack so they get blocked. Yeah, and it's like a really easy way to cheese aliens. Yeah, and then there's the path that I think is the best currently, which is to just use one team for everything. So one team for PvE, one team for PvP, everything. Aliens, Saints Road, even Awakened Realms 2.0, like the hardest PvE in the game, which would just be a team that looks like Kakzu, Sakon, and then your choice of tank ninjas. So you could either use Miko Shion for the cleanse, Naraka with Ame Gakure equips or accessories for the cleanse, and he's also just a better tank ninja, or Hiran and Kakzu. So you have your choice between those three. And then you just run them for the whole entire game, and you only do one thing, which is stack HP and air on your whole entire team, except for Kakzu. On Kakzu, you just stack air and attack. And then you're set, and you're OP. You're pretty much at, like, super, super strong. It's a direct counter to a lot of other comps in the game. There's, like, ways to make it really, really good in PvP. So, like, you could replace Hiran and Kakzu or one of your ninja for the normal Hiran, and then just like run a block build, and then just block people and just kill them without even attacking and just block. Like that's one way to And then there's other ways to do it too, but I think that's the easiest way to play the game right now.
So, how do you build up air?
Okay, that's a good question. So I guess I'll go over a few ways that anyone can do, no matter like what events are around, no matter what ninja are available to them, because those things do rotate around, and sometimes they're not available. So we call it base. So base is basically in that normal stats page. It increases all of your ninjas' stats pages by that amount. We call it base. So base is basically conventionally what you get by playing the game over time, but there's like a few tricks that people do. So like one would be the 6-pass title. So if you like upgrade your title and your ninja rank over Anbu Devil, then you basically just fucked up your account. Like you fucked up real bad. And the reason is because if you upgrade it over that amount, then the title will start stealing prestige per day from you. Yeah, so like you don't want to go over Anbu Devil. The second you go over that, your account is sort of like ruined actually. And the only way to like level up your rank, you basically are wasting all the prestige that you get from the arena because it will just be subtracted every single day. You can like save up prestige in your bag, like through certain events and stuff, but that just takes infinitely longer. And the issue is that if you don't save up 4.2 million or like 4.9 million prestige at Onbu Devil before you get to Shadowfang, then it will be way harder to get to 4.9 million prestige while progressing through those ranks because you'll have to deal with the daily reaction.
Yep.
And so why does that matter? It matters because if you collect the 4.9 million before or while you're at Omni Devil, it's just a shortcut to get to the last title, which is 6 pass. Basically 6 pass, it gives you 30 DR and 30 air.
Yep.
That's like the important thing to know about it. That's super useful. It's super useful in PvP, in PvE. It's like really, really good. If you're an account that can only get to, like halfway there, and you aren't like 3RI, you aren't getting a bunch of stuff from the arena, it's just like impossible to keep leveling up your title. And it's just impossible. It's just, you're never going to do it. Like if you look at the one like right before, or like the couple right before, they literally consume like 20,000 a day. There's no way you're going to make 20,000 a day. There's just no way. Like the top arena rank gives you like
25,000
5,000 a day, or like 3RI or something. So it's just not feasible.
Yeah, I think you can see there, the top you can get is,
20,000.
20,000, and then you've got to get, 15 victories, which would be
like 3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
so
can also
you'd
buy
still
chances.
be losing from that. Yeah, you'd
Yeah,
also
you
you
still
would
buy
have
chances.
to be buying chances. So
And yeah, it's like if you are first place in your arena, that won't last for long if you don't know enough about the game. Like if you don't know enough about the game to not know that you go over Onbu Devil, then you don't know enough to beat people once your server merges. So like server merges will happen pretty frequently, and eventually you'll be merged into someone who not only spends more money than you, but also like knows about the game more than you. And that's like going to push you down the arena. And so like it's really important to be prepared for those things, but like just doing this, like this is sort of like really common knowledge for people who've been playing for a while, but for the new players, it's like a really easy mistake to make. Like it's super easy, right? Like it doesn't take that long before you can go over Onbu Devil. And so like if you didn't learn from, then you're just at a massive disadvantage for no reason. And so that's like one way to get air. That's really important. The other ways are like really boring. Like you basically just have to wait. It's like 6 pass Arcanum. That is like how people build base, pretty much. Like the longer your account has existed, the higher level your Arcanum level will be. And in the Arcanum, you get damage rate and air. It's like when you see people like in the late game and they have like 500, 600 DR, it's not because like they're min-maxing just as much as you when it comes to gear. Like it's just because of their base. They just have played for longer, and that's why their DR is higher. And so that's a big disadvantage. Like that's a stupid thing about this game is like people who have been playing longer just naturally have more base. They can just generally, it unlocks a lot of different strategies. It gives them a lot more to work with. And so that's like the sad thing about it. Sometimes you just need to wait for longer to get stronger because you've just min-maxed as much as possible. And then the other answer would be gear and accessories. Besides your formation, besides like your team. Your team is the most important thing. Ninjas, most of the time, they're always going to be available at some point. There are literally like 3 ninjas who came and never came back, and they were just like exclusive like crossover events.
Are
Those
they the
don't really
ones
matter.
from the other sorts of animes like Goku and
Right,
Boa
and
Hancock
you
and
can
stuff?
buy Goku and, but they're just irrelevant now. Like
Yeah.
recently there was a really good ninja that came out, Toshiro,
Yeah.
but you can't get him anymore. So even if he's super super good, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's gone.
It's a
Feels bad.
shame he's my favorite Bleach character.
And he's also insanely good. Actually, he's really really good.
I did see that he seemed to be making it into getting some use.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he's yeah. Well, I mean, for the most part, your formation matters the most. And so like, it's weird to say this, but like honestly, the game doesn't really start until you like understand the game, or until you're like pretty far into the game. And that's the interesting thing, is like a lot of people will buy Ninja while they're still early on in the game, and they'll buy it for like a lot of gold. That will usually be a mistake, because you usually will like change your mind later on once you understand more about the game.
Yeah.
And once you go farther into the game, like you just naturally learn more. Yeah. So like buying Ninja is not, even though your formation is the most important thing, it is like the easiest mistake to make is to buy the wrong Ninja. You can
Yeah.
also buy the wrong gear, but there are just like some Ninja and some gear that are safer buys to make, because you can at least guarantee that you will use them later on. So like, I'm a PvE focused player. I care about clearing Saints Road. I care about clearing eventually Realms later on. So I know that stacking attack is useful for me. I know that stacking air is useful for me, because those stats are good in PvE. It's like, it's pretty easy to see when a PvE, like a new gear set comes out, or like gear comes along that from the past, it's like that's sort of centered around those stats. And I sort of know that Sakon and Kakazu are like really meta when it comes to PvE later on. They're also good at PvE early on, so it would make sense to eventually like transition my team to a team based around them that is
Yeah.
also somehow good in PvP. But I know all those things. It's like I already understand like what I want like out of the game. I understand like the path that people who are better than me are already on.
Yeah.
And like I want to copy them, and so it's like it's easy for me to make those choices. And I'm also like familiar with the gear, like I've memorized them. It's like I know all the gear sets, I know all the accessories. They're like common ones that people will use. You really have to like dig and find what other people are using or have used, and that's sort of tough. Like I see a lot of videos where someone is clearing aliens and then they don't show their gear afterwards. They don't show their stats. That's really annoying.
Yes.
Because all you know is what form they use. They could easily have like like 150 million BP and just like a shit ton of base, and that's so unfair. Like it's not even impressive at that point.
Yes.
I want to see like how optimized your team was, how good they were. So like recently I saw someone use the Roshi cheese and clear aliens at like 30 million BP. I'm not sure how long his account existed for. Like he could have just waited a really long time and collected base and stayed at low BP. But I think it's like really impressive nonetheless. Yeah.
So,
and
what
it's
are
like
some of
inspiring.
the good gear to have, or gear sets to look out for?
Like it depends on your team and what you're going for. So
Okay, so
like
what about
there are
a
just some gear
tanky
sets
sword?
that are just there's some gear sets that are just that. There's some gear sets that are really good, but only in like their 2-set or 4-set effect, and like people almost always use them in just their 2-set or 4-set. Like using a 6-set of them is griefing. It's really bad. Most of the time, if you're not a dips-oriented team and you're a tank team, you only almost always use the 2-set or the 4-set because you're looking for pure stats instead of an actual effect. It's like dips players, because they're going first, because they're fast, they don't really care about the actual stats. They care about the effect, especially effects like CC, or like being able to CC your opponents, pretty much. That's what they focus on. Increase the success rate of control skills. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
They're also looking for damage rate and attack, but like they don't have to min max for it as heavily because there's a lot of different strategies that you can use having a dips team. So like some sets are meant for being a full 6-set and being good as a 6-set, but then some just aren't. Like some are really bad. Okay, like I think that the most important gear that people look out for generally nowadays are people that they will use on their carry. So like namely someone like Kakazu or whoever they're using as their carry. So like a really, really famous set would be the Indra set. So 4-set Indra is really popular to like use on your carry. And the nice thing about the Indra set is it's a hybrid set at the 4-piece. It gives you avoid injury rate, HP, damage rate, and attack. Like basically the 4 good stats besides HP, pretty much. Like HP isn't good for attackers, but it gives you like really, really good stats all around. And it allows you to run the 2-set of something else to like supplement for which direction you really want to head. So like you could use a 2-set of a more of a dips gear like Saint or Amagakure. That's like 2 set of those gears are good for damage.
Yep.
Or you could go more on the tankier path, depending on what you want. You could go for a 2-set Kiri, which gives you air and attack, or like 2-set Deathbone or Uzumaki, which is this is a lot. This is probably a lot, but yeah, Indra is good, and it's generally what people use on like their carry because they don't want their carry to die, and they also want to build damage on the carry. So like even if you're a tank, you'll sacrifice some tankiness on your carry to have that damage, and if you're a damage player, then a lot of times the person who does damage on your team will be someone like your Jiraiya, your Assaulter, who isn't the fastest on your team. And so you sort of want them to survive until they can attack most of the time. Yeah, Indra is good. But like a lot of people will just go for, like if you want to stack pure damage, that's totally different. Some people will do that. Like even on a tank team, sometimes you stack literally pure damage on your carry because your formation is giving your carry tankiness, which isn't like a great idea, but some people do that. Sometimes it's necessary, I guess, and sometimes in PvE it's good too if your base is enough to tank for you.
Yep.
Yeah, man, like Deathbone used to be in Ninja Treasure and 5 Kage. It was really, really efficient. It was like if you just built Deathbone over everyone, then you'd just be so much more powerful than the competition. But nowadays, the gear that you can buy for coupons in Ninja Treasure it's pretty bad. Like Corruptor accessories are decent. They're pretty good, actually.
Oh, good. I still have those.
No, I don't think they're around anymore. Sorry. Like all the gear nowadays that you can buy for coupons are just really bad. They're really, really bad. Like it's funny, but like Deathbone is like the only good set that's gonna come out from like Ninja Treasure in like a couple rotations. Everything after it is just really bad for some reason. Like yeah. So like in the past, it used to be there was a lot of good gear. Now it's not as good. So the only good ones are like event gear that you can buy for a lot of gold. The coupon stuff isn't good anymore, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Indra is like more of like a budget friendly set. It's older now, and it's still really, really good. It holds up. Like all the good stuff that's like more recent, it's gonna provide like similar things to Indra that people are looking for. Like those are the core stats that people are looking for. Like you just have to realize when you're buying a set, you're sort of locking yourself into a certain playstyle. So like let's say you want damage on your carry. If you see like, oh, I want 2-set of a damage set, and there's like the cursed set that came out, and you look at it and you're like 2-set effect, damage rate, 22,000 agility, right? That is technically damage, but it's not very flexible. Like you wouldn't be able to use that on anything other than a damage person, right? And then there's like the other end of things where it's just like purely tank. It's like 2-set Longen. It's 30% air, 30% HP. You're not really going to be able to use that on anyone but a tank.
Yep.
That is an advantage of 4-set Indra. It's sort of hybrid. It's pretty much good on anyone, like especially later on in the game. But then there's like 2-set Deathbone was just a sweet spot. It was just 30 air, 30 DR. Pretty much just good on anyone. Didn't matter. Yeah, there's nothing like that anymore, except for 4-set Indra, which is why 4-set Indra is so good. Like I guess there's also 2-set Kiri. Kirigakure. That Kirigakure, it gives 20% attack, 30% air. That's like the only other like hybridish two set out there. Otherwise, it's just all the two sets are just damage or tank. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, there is like somewhat of a mini meta around 4-set Sunagakure. Basically, it cleanses all your fire ninjas 100% of the time. There is issues with it, but if you're looking for 100% cleanse, then that is really, really good on a tank team. Yeah, there's... If you know what stats to look for, then you can make your own decision about gear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you see the curse set, like if you just look at it, then the 2-set effect just gives the only important stats are like DR, attack, air, HP. Like agility, it doesn't really matter that much. Anything that's like weaken enemy attack is decent, but it just doesn't really have a place. It does not rank over air in my opinion. Like ignoring enemy defense or like reducing enemy defense can be good, but like if you don't have a way to do that already built into your formation, that is a weakness in my eyes. And so you're like if you rely on gear, and you're sacrificing important stats to be able to do that usually. There are exceptions to that. So like there's a dips gear, which is 6-set Hyuga. It's actually like pretty good for like later, like for dips teams, if you're actually hitting first. And it's like decent in PvE too, once you build up enough base, like after 10 years to be able to tank PvE. Yeah. Yeah, otherwise it's just like when you look at the curse set, it's just bad. It's just bad. So it just gives you 30% DR, 30% DR, and 30% air. And then it has like some special like gimmicks attached to it. Let's just call them gimmicks. They aren't good gimmicks, and especially seeing how weak the 2-set is, it's like the 2-set is always going to be the most versatile part of that set. Because let's say you buy 6 of the gear, you can split that up into 3 of the 2-set. So if the 2-set is really powerful, that can be a good thing if you decide like the 6-set isn't worth it anymore, right?
Yeah.
So like that goes for like Indra. Like some people will use 6-set Indra, and then like later on they realize, oh, it's shit. But then they realize the 4-set Indra is like one of the best sets in the game. They're like, okay, well, I'm glad that I have it. And same with Saint. Same with like some people will buy Kumogakure. Terrible set. Terrible. But if you're trying to min-max on DR, then the 2-set gives you 40 DR. That's the most in the game so far for a 2-set. So like it does at least have that use, even though it's bad. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like 2-set of Longan, Uchiha, anything that just gives HP and air, really good on tanks, but like doesn't give you any damage at all. So you have to be pretty committed to the tank path if you're going to go for those sets. Like Amagakure gives you like 5% more attack over Saint for the 2-set. People only really use... Oh yeah, people will use Amagakure for CC. So they'll use like 6-set, 4-set on their first ninja that attacks to try and CC the opponent a lot. But like some people just use the 2-set on, for example, Kakazu, because you want to stack a lot of attack on Kakazu usually.
Yeah.
But like Saint is a lot cheaper, it's a lot older, but it pretty much does the exact same thing. Like literally the exact same thing, minus 5% attack. It's like some of those things are important to know. Like a lot of sets, like just because they're more modern doesn't mean they are actually better. Like usually they're not better at all. They just have like different gimmicks, and usually the gimmicks don't matter. They're just an artificial like thing to make you think that they're special or worth more gold, but they aren't usually. Like the base fundamentals in the game, like the base stats, generally make or break how good a set is, in my opinion. There are some gimmicks that are just broken, and they're just like really, really pushing for an artificial meta like surrounding that. But it usually doesn't last forever, whereas like the base fundamentals last forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you decided on a path?
yeah, I definitely want to be making my team a bit more tanky.
Right.
Um, it'll take a bit of building, but I mean, no matter what I'm doing, it would take a bit of building anyway. So, yeah,
Yeah, and now you just know like to look out for like gear is easier to build than accessories also because accessories you need like very specific. Like I could always get the 2 set of Uzumaki and just slap it on any character, but let's say I built my force, my chakra, and my agility on a character. Now I need the force, or now I need the power, right?
yeah,
So like, power is very specific, depending on which gear set you get it from, right? Like you can't just slap a 2 set of any power on, or like a 2 set. It's going to be rare to find exactly what you need, and so that does take some planning as well, like to think about what you're min maxing for.
yeah,
Yeah, accessories are a whole different thing than equipment because for equipment it's just 1 set per names. Like Saratobi, oh yeah, I know what it does. But if I want to know what Saratobi accessories do, I know 4 different things. So it's like it's way worse to talk to people about accessories to learn like which accessories are good. Yeah.
Are the pets important at all? Like, is there some sort of clear advantage, like clear best pets to be using, or anything important about the pet stat, or is that sort of
Yeah.
not
I
too
mean,
important?
no, I mean it. So like it does depend a lot on min maxing and strategy. So like I'm gonna be honest, nobody really plays optimally.
Yeah,
It's almost like against human nature to play optimally. If it's your first playthrough through this game, it makes a lot more sense just spend on what you want and do what makes you happy.
yeah,
You're probably not going to get to the highest levels of the game. You're probably not going to like really. You're probably going to want to be strong. Like pets are the easiest BP boosts early on in the game.
yeah,
So like buying pets for the right amount of gold is important. So like a lot of people will recommend that you get your pets through black market, which is just gold efficient. It sometimes depends on what the pet is. Like sometimes there will be better pets or worse pets, but there will generally be like a more modern pet in there.
yep,
I think the other option would to be to get the pet in black market that is recent but 3,500 gold. It's a lot cheaper than black market, but it's still like a modern pet. It's not going to be the best pet in the game, but it's going to be like decent. There's a lot of most pets that aren't like modern are just scams. So like stay
yeah,
away from anything that isn't a modern pet from black market or PM, pretty much. Also, just something to say, after the first pet, every other pet just becomes like worse. So the first, like one pet, it does actually make sense to get one pet like early on, just because the stats alone will help you clear all of the like the PVE until you reincarnate your first time,
yeah,
and it'll sort of like carry you. But like so will a good ninja, to be honest. Like so will a modern ninja. Yeah,
yep,
pets. If I were to restart this game, I probably wouldn't get any pets.
yep,
But I think that I am. That's because I have like a vision and a goal that doesn't have to do with pets. Because pets, we could call it base. Like pets is easy access to base, but it's not any of the important base. So it's like speed and attack,
yeah,
true, but it's not any DR or air. It's not gonna like help you significantly in clearing PVE that like you couldn't do through some other source. It's like it's just like common stats.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's definitely like not gonna help you beat a whale
Yes.
or someone who spends more than you. For sure. So like if that's your goal, then don't buy pets.
Yeah.
Like min max. Yeah, yeah. I mean some people that's their goal. Like I know a lot of people that's their goal. Like they see someone who's really strong, like I want to beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like then pets aren't gonna help you that much. And
Yeah,
and
that makes
honestly,
sense.
like yeah, honestly, the easiest way to beat them would just to be a build tank. Like that is the only way to beat somebody who's spending a lot more than you and like catch up to them. Just because air's that efficient of a stat. Like the defensive stats in this game are massively more efficient than the offensive stats. It's just like the offensive stats really, really they have an advantage when the other person has some sort of inherent advantage over you. It's like either they've been playing for way longer than you, or they spend way more money than you. That's when offensive stats have an inherent advantage
Yeah.
because you can stack them to an amount where they compound on each other. But if you're able to stack like min max for air and they didn't min max for DR, then they will literally do no damage to you and you could spend like a lot less money than them. So yeah, that's like the great thing about building tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like the true way to clown on people. Like people think that clowning on somebody is like one-shotting them. No, like clowning on somebody is literally them spending a lot of money and doing 5 damage to you.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
I can imagine. I mean, I remember on one of my servers I saw someone saying how annoyed they were that they can, thrash everyone in the server apart from one guy, and saying how his stats were so much higher, and it was just because of his Naraka Path pain.
yeah. Pain is OP. That's what
Yeah,
made him
and
like a
yeah,
king in the
him
past.
using his massive air, and like I was trying to work it out with him. I'm like, yeah, why does he survive? Why doesn't he take very much damage at all? And now that I understand the stats,
Yeah, I mean he can give himself 120 air compared to like the maximum 60 air of most ninja that are damage oriented. So like
yeah,
he just is a massive offset into the tank sided meta.
yeah,
It's like early game, he's OP, he's broken.
yeah,
Like other ninja can be even like just as effective as him, but even cheaper. Like true, they don't give themselves tankiness, but like a ninja like Naori, like if you really want to win PvP, if you really want to win in PvP, and you want to do it like massively more efficiently than anyone else, then like the most of like older ninja are not worse as tanks. It's true, Sakan is good, but he only is giving you 10 extra air over Naori at the cost of like a lot more gold. It's like Naori might cost you like 8k, 6k gold in in black market, but she gives you 60 air. She's not gonna be useful for anything else. She does give like some buffs and she self cleanses. She's good, but she's just gonna be there for the air. It's like simply put, if your opponent does not build 60 DR somehow on their main carry, then they're just gonna not be doing much damage to you. And she's just really, really efficient for the amount of gold that she gives. Because they might waste their gold, and you're just simply not. You're actually saving a lot of gold.
yeah,
Like I think the best tank team in the game would be something like Hiran Kaksu, like from UC. You probably shouldn't get them from UC. It takes a long time. Naori, Naraka, he's getting a lot cheaper because he's a healer. He also gives a lot of air.
yep,
And then like a third support that gives air. Could be anyone. It could be like a newer support. Could be an older support. But yeah, like you just win. You'll just win, and no one will be able to do any damage to you. Like in the past, there were versions of this team. Oh yeah, probably like Mui or something. Mui's probably also like 6k gold. Mui's insane. Yeah. Yeah, like that's just like if you want to win PvP from like really really early on. By like the first time you hit your 50k gold for your GP, you're like, all right, I want to spend this 50k gold efficiently, and I just want to win. Like from here into like the next couple months before someone else is going to overtake me by like buying new ninja. I want like a big advantage. Yeah, just build like a really efficient tank team.
Yeah.
And like you aren't even going to be really killing them, honestly, because you're just not going to be doing any damage. But you will just take 5, so all you have to do is build more HP than them.
Yeah.
That's just for PvP though,
Yeah.
and that's only for the early game. Eventually, they will stack enough DR to kill you.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's like dips and damage only becomes good in the late game when people are whaling and spending like thousands of dollars and like R3RI. That's when it becomes viable, when you're whaling. But if you're not, like late game and a whale, which is like two separate things. Like if you're a whale in the early game, it can be like decent, but it's not going to be as good as if you whale in the early game and you build tank.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a proponent for tank in general in the meta, but like I think it's pretty undisputed that tank is better early game, just because the ninja is just much more efficient, like gold wise.
Yeah.
Gold tank, yeah.
Yeah, this has been really good and really enlightening, very helpful. Lot to
Yeah, I hope that you can use this for your content or something. Like maybe if you learn enough, you can like make a tier list. I'm sure that will help people.
yeah,
I feel like all the new players in this game, they're always asking like, oh, what ninja should I get? And they just like don't understand any of these things, or like why one ninja might be better than another.
yeah,
The answer is always like, well, it depends.
yeah,
Depends on what you want. Depends on what path you want to take, and what your team is going to be built around.
yeah,
Yeah. I always just say Kakazu and Sakan because they're just generally like S tier. But then there's also ninja like Yasuka Itachi. You know, arguably also S tier. Yugao, Jiraiya, and Jiraiya is super cheap now. Yeah, they're like technically up there at the best ninjas in the game. But the strategy that you use, that you're locked into when you choose those ninja, is way worse. Like it's just strategy wise, it's way worse, progression wise. And so if you want to progress, it's gonna require more patience to progress. Like it's a slow build up over time, like clearing PvE. It takes like thinking and work, but the payoff will eventually be like unlocking the actual game
yeah,
instead of just like thinking that throwing money at the game will cause you to win. Yeah, pretty much.
yeah. That's really good. Very helpful.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
yeah, I think that's going to really improve my play on all of my accounts. It'll help with this account. It'll help with my free-to-play account. It'll be useful for the regression server accounts. And if I ever do new accounts as well, if I ever sort of start making some money from my YouTube videos, I'll be able to actually put some money into games like this. And, you know, I could do a VIP server one day potentially. And so this information would be very helpful for that too. So, yeah, this is all really good. And it's given me a much better understanding of the base game and the fundamentals. Because obviously not having those fundamentals has made it very difficult to sort of
Min-max.
build up the team and, yeah, min-max.
Like you have good ninjas on that one account that's BIP, but
Yeah,
the direction of your team, it doesn't have a direction. So it's just like all over the place. So anyone who min-max would just beat you.
yeah. Yeah, and it's good to know that I can sort of recover it a bit by just working out what I need to do and sort of set a direction for myself.
Yeah. Like honestly, that account that has 50k gold, that's like it's it's your best shot at like learning about the game. So I wouldn't give up on that account. You could still play on your other accounts, but like at least like do GP on that account and like collect
Yeah,
the gold so that you can test things out and you can like yeah like test theories that you have. Like that's something about this game. You usually have to test out things to see if it works, which kind of sucks because a lot of things take gold. And like sometimes you have your own ideas that other people haven't tried before. It's really common actually.
yeah,
Yeah, most things require testing, which is bad and good.
yeah. Um, yeah. Thank you very
Oh,
much for this. This has been a really good stream. Thanks for all the help. And
yeah, no problem.
is there anything you want to plug out? Like, do you have a YouTube or anything like that? Or
No, but I want to help people. So I think it would make sense for me to like learn how to make a tier list or a guide or like just help people understand how the game is supposed to be played.
yep,
Like there are videos that people have posted where it's just them like clearing a specific floor of aliens or clearing a specific like level in Saints Road or like other realms, but like I don't think anyone really understands like why that's important or
yeah.
like what.
I've seen the exact same thing, and I've been equally as frustrated because I've seen them do it, and I've gone, "How the hell did you do that?"
Right,
And I've
exactly.
sort of
Yeah.
realized that's not helpful. So that's why I've been doing my streams the way that I've been doing them, is so that everyone can see the whole process. They can see the successes and they can see the failures, and it's allowed you to come along and see things and be able to give advice, so that now my content in the future will be better. So yeah, this has been really good. um do you jump on the Discord, the Ninja World Online Discord?
Yeah, I'm on there all the time. I think that like it's a great place to learn. There's also another Discord that I'm part of called Knight's Shadow. It's more of like a there's it's not the general community. It's more people who understand the game a little bit more. And there's also like a database there, and I always look stuff up there on the database because I don't think the wiki's very good.
No.
Yeah. It's just really hard to navigate compared to Discord. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if people want to get in contact with you, and is there sort of a place for better information? Like obviously there's that. Did you say it was a Discord group?
Yeah.
Oh, I've just noticed that I just saw some posts from you in the game encyclopedia. So do you post in that Discord area often?
In the game encyclopedia? Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah. Like if someone has a question, I'll answer it for them.
Yeah, so I think if people want to get in contact with you, then, or if you have questions, then go on the Discord and use that, and to trust Bartholomew.
What do
He,
you think about like learning how to like edit videos? Will you ever try that?
I do. I've done some edited videos. I'm not very good at it, and I take a long time. I would like to learn more, but sort of it's something I'm in the progress of learning at the moment.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, I did like your idea about the tier list, and I've actually written that down as something to look into. And I'd have to build up my game knowledge and stuff a bit more
Yeah,
before
if you ever
I
want
did
help with
something
that,
like that.
I'm totally down to try and help you. Also, there's like a few people who are really, really good at the game and they always answer all these questions, but they're just not willing to like give more than like a simple single answer to one question.
Yeah,
It's like most things in this game, it requires like more than a simple answer.
yeah,
Yeah, that is just unfortunate. And like they're just lazy, so they don't. They don't give like good answers, but they can answer things. Like it just has to be a simple question. And if you build like a bunch of these questions up, then eventually you'll start to recognize like the path and like what is good and what isn't. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Also, if you have questions and stuff, ask them on these videos, and I can ask around as well, and I can ask Bartholomew directly. So, but yeah, it's really important, I think, to have engagement on the videos. So, it'd be really good if you guys are liking, commenting, subscribing. As I say in most of my videos, I think one of my favorite things is comments on the videos. Finding out what servers people are playing, how they're playing, stuff like that. And I do get a lot of questions, so feel free to keep questions coming. Hopefully my game knowledge is building so that I can really be giving out good information, and now I have this excellent resource of Bartholomew, who can help me if I don't have an answer, and if it's something that we need to organize a stream or a video for, we will hopefully be able to do more videos and streams and stuff if people need help with things. So, I think that's all for now. I will see you guys in the next video, whenever that is. Thank you very much, Bartholomew.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, bye guys.